order this regular meeting of the Page County School Board.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter. Yes. Ms. Alger. Yes. Mr. Buford.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes.
All present.
Please pause for a minute of silence as we prepare for the meeting tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dr. Fox, do you have any agenda changes or additions?
I do not.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Alger and a second by Dr. Painter to approve the agenda.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Ms. Alger. Yes. Mr. Buford.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, I'd like to certify personal matters discussed in closed session this evening pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A and 1-2. And
Second.
2-2.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smith and a second by Mr. Painter to certify personnel matters discussed in closed session.
Ms. Alger. Yes. Mr. Buford.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes. Citizen comment.
We have
Okay, I'm going to read this real quick before we start. The Page County School Board welcomes citizen comment during regular meetings. School board members do not respond to public comment during a meeting. All comments should address a matter related to Page County Public Schools. The school board will not hear public comment that involves an individual student-related matter, the disclosure of which would violate applicable confidentiality requirements. The school board expects that each speaker will be courteous, modeling for our students how one can respectfully agree or disagree with others' views. Speakers will address their comments to the entire board and not to one individual board member, nor to the superintendent, a staff member, or the audience. Speakers will have 3 minutes to present their comments from the podium.
Dana.
My name is Dana Pfeiffer. Address is 566 North Street in the town of Shenandoah. Good evening. And dear members of the board, I come here tonight to ask for you to please reconsider the removal of Officer Lom at the Shenandoah Elementary School. This matter should focus about who is the most qualified to protect our students, staff, and school as a whole body. This should not be focused on a conflict between the two adults involved. The removal has affected 300 plus children and their families. In less than a year's time, with him being SRO, he has built strong bonds and relationships. As a community, we often stand together. In saying that, I do want to shed light and let y'all know that there is a petition that I'll bring forward to y'all in the upcoming weeks in hopes to get him back. I have been approached by members of our community in the town of Shenandoah that has noticed safety protocols being handled very differently this week in the absence of Officer Lama being gone. Now, I urge you to please keep the children's best interest at heart, and at the end of the day, everyone should be wanting what is truly best for them. Please take a moment to think of how this rash decision would be affecting the children. Thank y'all for your time.
Good evening. My name is Brittany Sutherland. I reside at 215 Maryland Avenue, Shenandoah, Virginia. I am a parent of a special needs child at Shenandoah Elementary School. I'm a firm believer of standing up for what I feel is right, and we all know right is right, wrong is wrong. With that being said, we are under the understanding that we are going to be receiving letters from the superintendent in regards to our SRO. I have sent an email asking about what is going on and when we will be notified in regards to our SRO with no response. I know every day is busy, and I am one that completely understands. But as a parent, I have seen so many tears from students at Shenandoah Elementary School. It is very heartbreaking. We would love to see SRO Officer Lama placed back at Shenandoah Elementary School, where it is clear he loves his job and he loves the children very much. It is not very often you get someone and they go above and beyond. Officer Lama, he does go above and beyond. I can personally stand here today and brag on just how awesome he is. I have many hours of volunteering inside of Shenandoah Elementary School. I have seen the excitement of children's faces, and I have seen the love that he gives to everyone that he comes in contact with. As a parent, you know who is good for your children and who are not. And in the world that we are living in today, having someone good means more than anything. Being a parent, wait a second. Being a parent with a special needs child, I can stand here today and say that I have seen a major change in my child. At the beginning of this school year, my child was petrified to go to school because of his disability. He started out in kindergarten. I personally pulled my 5-year-old and put him back in preschool. I would not have been able to have got my son to be able to go to school if it would not have been for Officer Chad Lama with the Page County Sheriff's Department as our SRO. Last night, my son bawled his eyes out, not wanting to go back because his safe person is not there. I have a child that has lived for years with PTSD, and to being able to sit back and see my son come so far and mature how much he has in the last 5 months, and to see him falling backwards because of one move is heartbreaking. He bawled his eyes out last night until he went to sleep.
Thank you.
Good evening. Tamara Middleton, 388 Runyon Road, Raleighville, Virginia. I guess I'm allowed to speak about this. It's about my daughter. She's a student at Springfield Elementary. I don't know if you all have been made known of the incident that happened where somebody slipped something into her drink. And I've gotten nowhere at all. They didn't call me from the school. I got a call from the nurse, or her father did, that she was sick. Nobody said there was anything in her drink, that she had said there was anything in her drink, but she told me she told the teacher there was something in her drink. You can see a powder substance in the drink. I still have it. I tasted it. You can clearly taste what she told the teacher was a pill. I've spoke to the principal. I've spoke to the nurse. They said they're checking the videotapes. All I keep getting is it's under investigation. The teacher's still there, who told her to dump the drink out. The resource officer told her to dump the drink out. My concern is that we did take her to the emergency room and everything's fine, but she put it, she drank it, she spit it out. So nothing showed up in her system. But since I removed the bottle from the school, I removed it from the chain of custody when I talked to the deputies. My concern is that the teachers don't have the proper training to handle a situation like this, because I received no call. And if she would have done like the teachers did and dumped it out and went home and became ill, first thing the hospital is going to say is, which could she have come into contact with? I have no idea. I do not know. And as of yet, the teacher has not contacted me. I am in contact with the principal. My daughter went back to school very nervous. I was very nervous. I did not send her with a water bottle, because I don't know what's going to happen. She's having problems with 2 children at school. I told her it's only a couple days left. Let's just try to steer clear of the girls. Let's just get through the rest of this year with the picking and let it be. But this takes it up another level. And I really do think that training needs to be had for if a situation like this happens. So I would have really appreciated a phone call instead of just saying my child is sick. If she wouldn't have told me, I wouldn't have known nothing about it. So I just hope that some kind of help comes from me coming up here speaking about this. Thank you.
Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda to include personnel, minutes, and overnight field trips?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda, which includes personnel, minutes from April 23, and overnight field trips.
Second.
There's a motion by Dr. Banner and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Dr. Banner?
Yes.
Dr. Yes. Ms. Sullivan Smoot?
Yes.
Yes. Dr. Bucks, 2023, 2024 student and school board representative?
Yes, so this evening, I'm going to turn it over in just a second to Mrs. Sullivan Smoot and Mr. Painter, but we are happy to share that our process is on pace, faster than the previous process. So I think tonight they're going to share, we have accepted applications and they've done interviews, and so we've selected one Luray High School and one Page County High School student who will serve on our school board next year as a student representatives. I've spoken with those 2 students, and this summer we'll bring them in and we'll start doing some work with them in preparation for beginning their participation later in the start of the new school year. So I'll turn it over to you all, but we're happy to have 2 new students who will be joining us for. Here you go.
Okay, we met with 3 students on Monday of last week, 2 on that day and 1 on Tuesday. And so we are going with 1 from each high school this year. And from Luray High School, our representative will be Izzy Marie Drain. And from Page County High School, our representative will be Sebastian Bush. And I'm just glad we have the opportunity to meet with those who are interested and hear from them, and they share, and we've got great kids. And but again, we're going to go with 1 from each high school this year. We're excited about it. We're real excited that it actually got started before the end of this school year so that we will have time over the summer to meet and so forth. And so congratulations to those 2, and we look forward to working with them.
I agree with everything she said, and they gave us a lot of good ideas to help with your review. So appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr.
It's been a long afternoon.
Popcorn it is.
Mr. Hopkins, 2023, 2024 federal programs update and application.
Good evening. So tonight, before you have laid at your seats, a overview of the 23-24 federal programs. Of course, Page County participates in 4 of them, Titles 1, 2, 3, and 4 Part A's. For Title I, 93% of our allocation, our projected allocation, is going to go to salaries and benefits. The remaining 3% is used for materials and supplies, and of course, parent-family engagement, which is a requirement of the grant. Examples of some materials and supplies, some reading and math, that's for the students, and then of course the PFE stuff for parent-family engagement is our plays, our literacy nights. Title II is split up in 3 different ways. I've worked with Dr. Johnson and Mr. Bell on this. We're going to, 44% will go to our classroom size reduction teacher. We have 1 teacher that's paid out of Title II at Stanley Elementary, and that continues to be a positive, productive thing. 37% goes to retention incentives. After our most recent federal program monitoring, we cleaned this up a little bit. And specifically what that is that our secondary math teachers that are properly licensed and endorsed to teach math, which is very good for us in Page County, according to the IPAL report. Thirdly, 19% goes for recruitment, and this is something we've added, and I've worked with Dr. Johnson on this. So what we're doing is based on our IPAL report, there's areas of need, specifically SPED, science, and ELA. So we're going to really target those people and offer them in, basically a reimbursement, if you would, if they get their license in that area or pay for their testing fees to take the praxis, or even up to coursework that gets them endorsed, properly licensed endorsed. Title III, 83% goes to materials and supplies. It's a very small grant that we're using there, but we do use a lot of that for our L students, mostly materials and supplies to support them in the academic environment. And then 17% of that is going for professional development. Title IV, Part A, 3 areas: well-rounded education, safe and healthy, and technology. And then in this grant, 2 of our 3 private schools are participating. So you see there in the middle of that, 5% of that grant or that allocation is going to the private schools because they're participating in that. 60% goes to well-rounded. So I work with Mr. Sample on some of the STEM-related things that we're purchasing. And then safe and healthy, I'll be working with Dr. Fox this year again on our Be Kind initiative. And that's where I think I just inverted that. 60% is going to safe and healthy, 35% goes to the STEMs. All those numbers you're seeing before you're projected, we won't have final until in September.
How many positions is that in Title I?
17 assistants, 4 teachers, half clerical.
Are any of them new?
No,
And no, there weren't any private schools in 1, 2, or 3?
no, private schools don't choose not to participate. Mount Carmel's on the fence right now, whether they're going to participate too. I'm still working. They have a new principal, so I'll be working with her in the future to see what they can do.
And do we have any schools in improvement that are required for you to have a set aside for them in Title I?
No. We have schools that are accredited with conditions, but
And then one more question.
Mhm.
Why don't y'all do any transferability to like stick the extra money in Title I or anything?
I've talked to Dr. Fox about that, and it's very plausible that might occur, depending on how much this Title IV money. We have a meeting with an individual or an agency to talk about the safe and healthy piece. Depending on how much that cost is, then we would transfer the remaining balance to help support more. Does that make sense? So
But I guess you'll make that decision before you turn your application in.
unfortunately, yes, we're going
Okay.
to meet with her next week in June. Our meeting that was on the 17th of May got canceled with this agency, so yeah, put me behind the 8 ball a little bit.
Much easier.
Yes, it is. I agree. Absolutely. Other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Johnson, high school boilers?
Yes, good evening, members of the school board. Mr. Williams is with us tonight, as well as a guest, Tyler Berry, and Tyler represents TLA, excuse me. And TLA, you might recall, is the company that we contracted with to provide oversight for our boilers, the way they function, and we brought Mr. Berry here purposefully because I can't do a good job of describing the work that he does. But Tim and his team are facing some issues, particularly at Page County High School with the boiler system there. And Mr. Berry's been extremely helpful to Tim and his team in providing guidance. And we are going to be in need of an RFP in order to scope the work and look at some engineering that's going to need to occur. But instead of just coming to you and saying, ooh, we need an RFP at such and such a school, we wanted to give you a deeper dive so that you kind of know what's going on. So, Mr. Williams and Mr. Berry.
Good evening, Board. Not a whole lot more I can add other than last year, approximately this time when we decided to, have them come aboard and help us out. Been quite a challenge through the winter. Back and forth phone calls, guys here. We ran into a lot of pains. Knowing, that there's something different in the two schools or whatever. Page has been more of a problem the whole time. So they've dug a little deeper, and Mr. Berry's much more qualified to tell you what his findings are and what they're found. So I'll turn it over to him.
Good evening, everyone. So, name's Tyler Berry. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Virginia. Most of my background is as a design engineer in the state of Virginia. I work with 60 different engineering firms in the state of Virginia, working on large-scale hospitals to higher education to K through 12. I can say that Page County Schools has been my adopted stepchild and my island of misfit toys to a certain degree when it comes to building systems. But for all the right reasons, I want to start by saying actually the reason why I love what I do is actually just helping people. I love solving engineering problems, and I love making things better for people. That's what I'm passionate about, actually. I'm an engineer who's a social person and a people person. I know that sounds weird, but at the end of the day, I love solving problems. So I got looped in. I have technicians. I have other service people on my staff. I primarily work with engineers all day long, but I work with Timmy in this case. And there's two schools. There's Page County High School and there's Luray High School. They're built identical. Page County has more issues than Luray High School. Not to go into a number of reasons, and I don't have the crystal ball of every aspect of the past of Luray or Page, but there's a combination of maintenance, there's a combination of design issues, there's a combination of all sorts of other circumstances that have led to the detrimental conditions of the boilers at Page High School that have put them in a position of near catastrophic failure. Some issues due to controls, some due to maintenance, some due to the existing design. I spent a lot of time with controls vendors, my own technicians, and other people to try to make it right. There's still some bugs in the works, but in general, and we can go into as many weeds as you want in terms of engineering stuff, to put the effort into place to figure out some leftover gremlins in the control systems that are at fight with each other on boilers that are near catastrophic failure would be not the right path for the school. So that's why I recommended to Dr. Johnson putting an RFP out for engineering services to replace two of the boilers and completely decouple the battling control systems, the BMS control system, and the burner management system to start fresh with new boilers that are not nearing catastrophic failure and to properly commission the systems so it does not happen again. I'm open to further questions, open to anything I've seen in the field, what I've saw in the past, and how I continue to support Page.
Tyler, can you tell the board how many boilers there are?
There are 5 boilers at each school. I would say that at any given time, 2 of them are shorted out or like in a lockout that have to be manually reset by their maintenance staff every morning. It's due to there's a burner management system that controls the staging of boilers and how they operate at each individual burners. And then you have an overall building automation system that's by Johnson Controls that sends the enable to them based on a common header sensor saying, hey, I'm not meeting set point, kick on boiler 2. Hey, I'm continuing not meeting set point, kick on boiler 3, or so on and so forth. So of those boilers, it seems that there are multiple issues constantly with the burners. And what happens a lot of times if they short off and not meet set point, or like there's safeties that are locked out, they'll get really cold. And what's the worst thing you can do with boilers is keep them turning on when they're cold. It's called thermal expansion. It's called thermal shock. They start condensing in the flue, and these are non-condensing boilers. So if you condense on a non-condensing boiler for 12 years, you're going to kill them. That's exactly what's happening.
Did we join forces with all this Johnson Controls stuff after the new schools were built?
Here's the
Is there a
issue.
common denominator?
That's why he's here. He can.
So, well, let me make this clear. I think there's a lot of blame across multiple parties because there's an engineer of record, and then there's JCI, and then there's the installing contractor, then there's the previous maintenance contractor. I walked in day one and I looked at this boiler system as an engineer and I said, something isn't right. Let me see the sequence of operation. The sequence of operation put in place was for a condensing boiler. That would have never worked because if you reset the water temperature too down, part of the issue is your domestic hot water is fed off a water-to-water heat exchanger off that unit. So if you need 140-degree domestic hot water in storage due to Legionella, and you reset your supply water temperature down to 120, you're not going to get there from there. So don't get me started. Anyways, there's certain issues that as an engineer and as a professional, I can look at and say, why'd you do that? You should have known better. From a controls vendor perspective, from an engineer of record perspective, I don't know why they ever put glycol in the system. There's no need for freeze protection. There's no outdoor air units that are sitting outside, anything like that. That's another issue. And then also from just a maintenance standpoint and a technician standpoint, it's not, there's certain maintenance personnel that have their expertise probably in things not necessarily related to complex number 2 fuel oil burner systems. So when they try to fix something they think it's broken, they fix things in the way they think it's best, which isn't always the best. So there's blame, there's multiple culprits to this situation.
So are we on the hook essentially?
Yes.
Yeah.
So TLA, remember, TLA came in to assist our maintenance team and provide us guidance over the last year. So that's why Tyler's here tonight, is to explain all of these, the history of these question marks, not just Johnson Control.
Yeah.
You know, all the way back 14 years ago on day one when the system was fired up that maybe wasn't designed quite how it should have been. So what we need to do, yeah, we've got 2 boilers that we know might get us through next year, might not.
Well, it's questionable for all 5 because of the way the amount of cold water starts. My plan and my methodology for my recommendation to the school is to phase in 2 larger boilers that carry the majority of the load, and then you have 3 emergency standbys that you can scavenge for parts later, you know, and decouple the control system to a point where we, TLA, or some other service provider, long-term, because it has to be publicly bid, has a way to decouple that scope and keep JCI on this side of the fence and the burner management system on this side of the fence so they don't do this concept. That's what they're doing right now.
So he's like the friend that got brought in for the bad breakup?
That's much better.
So, okay.
Yeah. It's a messy situation.
I understood the
I'm going to go to therapy after this.
So what about Luray High School though? You're talking about Page. Are we gonna have to do something?
So we've been able, for some reason, we've been able to manage that one, and there isn't a conflict of safeties, of lockouts at Luray that they are at Page. And what I will tell you is by the time I went through every wire terminal landing and every sequence between both loops to find the difference between lockouts at Page versus Luray, you probably could have bought new boilers. And by the time I fix that, we're fixing an issue on boilers that are 14 years old that have been run ragged in conditions they weren't intended for. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole and have that expense to you guys on figuring that out when we just need to build the bridge over, you know. I wish I had a better answer to that, but you could pay somebody a lot of money to figure out that answer, and I don't think it would serve any purpose at this point, is what I'm getting at. If we were 2 years into this project and we were still dealing with this, sure. But we're 14 years into boilers that, you know, they could last till next year. They could die next week. I don't know. But that's why the urgency of getting the RFQ out for engineering services is important.
We bring,
If we get, let's say you get the two,
Mm-hmm.
proper training and maintenance will all come together.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest needs for Page County is just owner training and continuous commissioning and continuous maintenance. I mean, you can get on Google all day long and look up the benefits of planned service and understanding owner training and things like that. It's a huge part of it. But time is money, expertise is money. It is what it is. You know, none of the companies in this world are nonprofit organizations, but we, at least my perspective, the whole reason I'm here is because I just try to do the right thing and try to, you know, I was telling him I drove from Virginia Beach this morning. I haven't been in my house with my wife in 3 days. And he told me this was the day the school board meeting was happening. So I drove 4.5 hours up there to get here because I felt like it was the right thing to do. You know, I work with VCU and ODU and William & Mary and all sorts of complex organizations and have very complex conversations, but for some reason, y'all are my adopted stepchild, so I'm here.
We have an idea of cost.
4.5 hours.
so,
Oh, it was a long drive.
Ms. Painter asked about cost.
Cost.
And so I know today was about putting this on your radar and putting an RFP out that would determine some of that, right? That we were talking about.
Yes,
putting
I
out the
have,
engineering side.
I have a swag guess on the project that I don't want to be liable for numbers, but what I've found is that I did some research on funding through the literacy fund and an application and a form that you could finance such a project over 10, 15, 20, the life of the equipment needs. But part of that application process is getting engineering services. So I think it's important. I think it's probably $25,000 probably roughly for engineering services is my rough guess. But then after that, the total cost of the project, I don't know, it could be $400,000. So, you know, and I know kind of the expenditure budget of the school. So, I mean, that's tough. So that's part of the reason why I'm here is I gave some guidance on like, hey, here's some different ways you can fund certain projects. And I know that stings to hear. That's a big number. It is. It's a big number.
Have we spent all of your HVAC money yet? Would it fall under that?
Most of the grant money has been spent, but,
Even
we
the local
haven't
grant?
spent the school construction money, so it would fall under that, so.
How much do we have?
That's the 1.8 million that we got. Now we've got some of that laid out for different projects, but that's a possibility. The literacy.
Mind
fund
you,
is a possibility.
has a separate tangent. We surveyed the rest of the boilers in the other school.
We don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
There's some findings in there that are not ideal.
First of the wood stoves in.
Yeah, well, some of it related to asbestos, but yeah, we won't go there. But you know, there's some needs for the school, and I think there's potentially good ways of managing costs and offsetting because you're going to need some of that 1.8 million. You take, you know, a quarter of it, a little over that, right? If I'm doing the math, right? You know, and spend it on this project. There are still some other needs in your school, and they also include other things and carpet. And I know you'll have a lot more issues, you know, just sitting through this. It's the first ever school board meeting I've ever been to in my life. There's a lot of other things that are on your plate. You know, I'm here to answer questions and help guide Page County as best I can as an advisor to mitigate or help plan some of those costs.
Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
And I told Tyler he's got to drive back to Richmond, so I told him to shoot when he was finished.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Y'all have a great evening. I appreciate it.
Dr. Johnson, you are up again with Human Resources and Business Operations update.
Yes, I wanted to really cover two topics tonight, and just informational out of our department. And the first is give you an update on the radio project that's getting ready to kick off in just a few weeks now. Mr. Bell actually has brought just some visuals, because we've got 104 of these mobile radios that are going to go in our vehicles. And we have 16 portable radios. The beauty of these, the install will begin, if you can see there, on June 5th and 6th at the bus garage. And so here we are just around the corner now. That will not be done by our people. This is tied to the county project and the radios that are in the emergency vehicles as well. But Mr. Turner, our head mechanic, is going to be the one inspecting and signing off after each one is installed in the vehicle to make sure they meet our needs. Of the 104, there'll be one for each bus, van, or car. These include 4 channels. One of those channels will be designated 911. So when our drivers and our vehicles are out and about, if we had a real situation with these, the driver can flip the channel, whatever, and they're talking to dispatch. It's amazing. If we find that we need more channels, we can request more channels. Right now, speaking with Corey today, they're thinking about southern end of the county would be on one channel, northern end of the county would be on another, so they're not constantly hearing Rileyville's listening to Shenandoah's chit chat. There doesn't seem a lot of sense to that, but they could always flip it if they had a need to get onto that line. The portable radios, there'll be one for each building. They'll be tied to the office bus radio system. But the beauty of those are that at the end of the day, oftentimes, our admin are there in the building 4:30, and the bookkeeper's gone home and the secretary's gone home, but the buses are still on the road. They can carry those around the building. And so currently, if you're not in the office, you don't hear the bus radio. But going forward, after this summer, you can be on the second floor of Luray Middle School. If you've got this with you and a bus radio call comes in, you're going to be able to take it. So we're really pleased about the flexibility that will bring. I gave you a map to look at, and all of this to say we're going to have tremendous range. These operate off of towers that send signals to one another. So it's our understanding that our buses, when they're driving over on 81 South towards some of the schools that we play, they'll still be able to communicate back here in Pitts County, which is, we have nothing like that currently. They'll still be able to communicate with 911. So if there was an issue, they'd communicate with 911, and then the locality that they happen to be in would be able to respond. The same is true on the northern destination. Up through portions of Shenandoah County. And it really comes down to where the towers are located, and that's mapped out on here. But it's going to be very, very significant for us. So, any questions on the radios? We're pleased that project's right around the corner. Just wanted to give you an update on what's going to happen in the morning. We told you last time the contracts were ready to go, and they're queued up in our program Talent Ed. We're able to schedule release of those. So the finance team and the HR team have worked together quite hard this week. And we have combed data and fixed little errors in spreadsheets, because when you upload those, they'll spit back quickly if there's a dot in the wrong place or a hyphen in the wrong place. It's quite tedious, but we're ready to go. As we speak, the program is queued to launch contracts at 6 a.m. in the morning, and we thought that would be helpful for staff to get them early, give them tomorrow if there were questions, and then next week they're due at the end of next week. And I just listed for you the types of contracts and how many right now we're issuing, well over 500. The contracted services is, in addition to some part-time folks, it's also some of the key stipends, like we have a lead English teacher for the division, a lead math teacher, those kinds of things that they'll assist Ms. Lyman in VDOE and meetings and regional meetings. And then separate from the electronic system, our new hires still get paper contracts to start. The reason for that is, as new hires, they don't have talented account share. So we can't load them in the system because they can't access them. So year one, they get a paper contract, and then year two, once they've been with us, then they go into the automated system. So we thought you might enjoy just hearing the end of this process, and knock on wood, as long as the program doesn't glitch, these should fly in the morning.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have a couple of questions if I could.
Yep.
And I know it's going, some of it's beyond what you just presented. So we have a status, so I want to get a status of this, I guess, the building study. Where do we stand with that being done?
So it's underway. They've already completed 2 schools, and what they do is they do those sort of as a pilot, give us a report to make sure it's what we want. The other schools have already been scheduled, and I believe they're starting next week or the week after. So it'll take, I think, another 12 days, 14 days for them to finish that. So we're looking at a report probably end of, this is what month, May?
May.
Sorry, probably end of June, early into July, we'll have the full report from them.
Yeah, so how does that, I know you don't know what's in the report, right? But how do you dovetail what you're doing this summer while the schools are down? And what possibly could be on that? I mean, is there a plan for this summer of projects that's going to get done while we're down?
Yes and yes, but we also aren't investing too much in too many bigger projects because we want to wait for that facility study. There's some smaller things, like there's a floor that has to be repaired at one of the elementary schools, some painting that we're going to try to do, some resurfacing of floors, some general maintenance types of things that are normal summer projects that happen across the division. There's some of the safety and security things that we're going to be looking at for next year. Some of that work's going to happen over the summer. But we're whole scale going with large, big projects, other than possibly the 2 roof repairs.
I was going to
I don't
say,
think we're going to do large scale until we get the whole report back.
we have, and again, it's separate pots of funding as well. We've got some roof things that we know about that are tied to the school construction monies that we got from the state. That Mr. Williams has been scheduling roofers and getting all that work in line. We're finishing the 2 middle school HVAC projects in the gyms. So again, those are projects that are coming, and that's going to take a lot of your time over the next month or so, 2 months. So yeah, there are things that are planned, and then there are things that are maybe not the high end and anything questionable. Obviously, the facility studies are going to come in to, if it's questionable, we wait to make sure that, it's almost like a second opinion.
Can I make a request? I'd like a request that next meeting, we have what the summer projects that we think we know that's going to happen, or finish. HVAC is one of those finishing things. And expected the end date as well would be helpful too.
Sure.
And what the progress is. So I got a comment from a couple of people. The videos, do all of our buses have videos, cameras in them?
They do. Some of the older sub buses are the older cameras as well, but the functional route buses all have tremendous video in them.
Okay, the new ones, right? So the old ones is the kid, they're just one camera in the front?
All of them are one camera in the front. The only one that's not is that new one that you all saw. We
Right.
don't have that technology on the current buses.
Okay. Is there a retrofit for that? Because what I'm hearing is a lot of kids are sitting in the back so they can vape. And the bus driver can't see it so
Ducking
much.
below the seats.
Yeah, yeah.
We can look into it. Yeah, Corey.
And it's a shame we got to chase vapes, right?
Right.
It's a real shame.
I was about to say that. I was like,
We
Solar
look into
powered.
that. Right now, they're hardwired, but I don't know.
And if they put the windows down, would they
They
work?
would,
It may
yeah,
not
they
work.
might not work.
Yeah. Yes, we can look into that.
And I won't
It's
go
an
into,
extra, it's a safety thing too, right?
and I won't go into detail tonight, but we will have some update for you. We have another strategy to attack vaping in general that I've shared with the principals. We're very, very excited about. We're mirroring a neighboring county, and it's proven to be really successful. So I'll share that with you at a later date.
Wonderful.
looking forward to it.
And the Board of Supervisors, I guess, I know you got to see the facilities report first, but they made a comment, and with Mr. Guzzi, that said we should really look at a strategic plan on you know, what do we do with the next school builds that we need to have versus continue to repair, maybe replace. So I think we need to really start thinking about presenting that and see if I can get that conversation going, because I think it's a great idea. Strategically look at it. Don't spend a couple $1 million on schools that we're going to end up replacing anyway. So. Mhm. Yep. 1,000 at Page High.
Photos, yeah.
Well, I mean, that's information, right?
Yeah, that's not to say there's a problem.
That doesn't mean there's nothing wrong. That means get information. A lot of unsort.
Yeah, I think the product we're going to get is going to be a thorough, and it will be also categorized by, these are things that need immediate attention, or these are violations of ADA or, environmental violations, and then it'll be other things that you can work on over time, but it'll give you an inventory of things. And then we have to decide how we're going to tackle that, where the funding is going to come from, and that's going to have to be in conversation with the Board of Supervisors, because we can't do that independently. We can't. And they're aware that this is underway and that we will engage in conversations with them.
And I'm assuming there'll be a presentation.
Yeah.
Somebody being here like
Yeah.
Mr. Barry today.
Thank you. Dr. Fox, Superintendent's update.
Yes, so thank you. Just a couple of things tonight, some celebrations, because sometimes we don't get to do enough of that. But wanted to start tonight with, on Tuesday afternoon, we got the privilege of going over to the Tech Center for their signing day. So this is where students who are moving right into the workforce, they are presented, and their employer is there, gives them some swag, if you want to call it that. And they sign a contract that day. So there were 13 students who signed contracts that day. There's a couple others who are going to be signing, didn't want to participate, or are in the final stages of that with it. So it's just a great day. It's a celebration of that hard work. We want to make sure that we thank the faculty and staff there for their continued efforts for those students. We want to thank our business partners, so those organizations that are there hiring the students. And then our parents, guardians, family, and the friends of the students, because they play a role in this. They encouraged and supported those students as they move through their programs. And then we also want to make sure that our Page County Technical Center Foundation, we give a little shout out to them for their ongoing work and support, because this doesn't happen alone or in isolation. So just a shout out to the program there and to Mrs. Pettit and the work that the staff are doing. We're really, really proud of those kids. And I will say it was a happy day, a nice day to celebrate some of the successes of the hard work from this past school year. In terms of grants, we're going to share 2 awards with you tonight. One, the first is a $92,000 grant from the Claude Moore Foundation through Laurel Ridge Community College. So Claude Moore was a former physician and just an overall supporter of education. He owned a lot of land in Northern Virginia and bequeathed that to his foundation. And so year after year, they are supporting K-12 and community college and four-year university scholarships. This grant's going to be used to purchase what's called Z-Space virtual reality programming for the health sciences program. So it'll allow students to learn more about the healthcare system and human systems utilizing firsthand 3D, 360-degree virtual reality experiences. And you can see that picture of the lung there. The students can actually, in virtual reality, turn that lung and discuss the anatomy of the lung, or look at a healthy lung versus an unhealthy lung. So we want to thank Tommy Pitts and Mrs. Pettit for their work to secure that grant. I think they are super excited about it, and at some point we'll get you guys over there to see it in action. So other students in the schools in the tech center can be using it as well. It's not just for health sciences, and we can expand and grow the use of it. So we're very, very excited about that grant and grateful to the Claude Moore Foundation. The other is from our technology department, so thank you to Mr. Samples and his team for the work. They have secured a $179,000 grant from the Virginia Department of Education for the computer science integration project. So our RTRTs are going to be working with our elementary teachers to provide training around the integration of computer science standards into the core curriculum. And then they're going to design together, implement, and assess those lessons. And the whole focus of it is really truly built around a coaching cycle and a coaching approach. Let's try this, see how it works. And if it works, then we're going to share it out with other teachers. If it doesn't, let's go back and talk about why it didn't work.
So what are they spending $180,000 on?
So training and for like stipends when teachers are pulled out to do the designs, implementation together,
So is there
materials and supplies.
training after school hours or on their own?
It's going to be both. We're going to use it with them, have them be working on some projects offline, if you will, if you're working independently, do that. Second is about, some of the funding also going to be submitted out by the resources to be able to meet those standards.
Okay, because I'm like, $180,000 is a lot.
A lot of training.
I was just making sure we're not getting paid twice.
No.
Okay,
We're,
it's like,
we're pretty particular.
is that how we're getting our 5%?
No, she's kidding, DOE. She is kidding. In terms of budget,
$139,000.
yeah, that's true, says the CFO. So no real new news there in terms of budget. We've not heard anything different from the state. We'll certainly continue to keep you all updated. As Dr. Johnson alluded to, the contracts are going to be distributed beginning tomorrow. They do not reflect the 5% raise, again, because we don't have those final allocations from either the state or the Board of Supervisors. The state is essentially said that the money's there, we just have to match it at the locality, and so that hasn't happened yet. And just, trying to reassure people that when they sign their contract, when we get the funding, we will reissue those contracts as quickly as possible. So definitely thank you to the HR team and the finance team for their work. It's been a lot of very diligent, cross-eyed looking at a computer screen to make sure that everything's accurate. So thank you guys, Mr. Bell as well. Thank you for that. Just wanted to give you a quick update on a class of 2023 exit survey that has gone out. And this was in response to some questions that you all had and a desire to have additional information. So that survey has gone out to our current seniors. It's gathering information, including their email addresses, so that we can reach out to them in a year to get some information from them. So the questions are just asking about their intentions post-graduation, looking at if they are going to college or a trade school, what their intended field of study is going to be, evaluating their experiences in PCPS. Are they prepared for the future? What's some of the best things about being a PCPS student? What are some suggestions that we could use to help make the educational experience better for students? And then offering a piece of advice, appropriate piece of advice to underclassmen. So we'll bring that data back to you all this summer and share that with you and share how we're going to implement some of the changes that come from that. So we're grateful to them for so far the responses. There's about 95, and they've been appropriate. I will say that they've offered some good feedback for us. So we're grateful for that. Just a reminder to everybody, we do start next week, our last week of school for this school year. Monday, there's no school because of the Memorial Day holiday. Tuesday and Wednesday are regular school days. And then Thursday and Friday are half days with a dismissal at 12:30 on each of those days. We will be mailing home paper copies of the final report card to all families, and there'll be some other things in that envelope. There's some materials that we're required to send out from the state. So all of that will be going out the week after school ends. And then just a reminder about our graduation ceremonies with the Tech Center. That'll be next Thursday evening. And then Luray High School is on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, and Page High School is on Saturday evening at 6 o'clock. So praying for good weather so that we don't have to move inside and we can celebrate with our students as they move on to other things in their lives. And then lastly, we just want to say thank you to all of our faculty, our staff, our students, our parents, our families, and the community for their hard work and their support this year. We'll have the summer to regroup and refocus for next year, and then we'll come back and we'll do it all over again. So, and also thank you to you all for your support this year of our school system and our division. So that is all I have this evening. Any questions I can answer for you all? Thank you.
Ms. Seacrest, approval of claims for payment.
Yes, good evening, board members. You all have been provided with the claim certification where the operating fund is $499,807.29. Food service fund, $34,667.08 for total expenditures of $434,474.37. Along with that, you have the list of claims as well as the check registers. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Make a motion that we approve the claims for payment as presented.
A motion by Mr. Painter and a second by Ms. Albert to approve the claims for payment as presented.
Yes.
Ms. Albert? Yes. Mr. Buford?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Fox?
Yes.
Calendar?
Thank you. So tonight I bring back for your approval, we discussed this last time, some of the additional revisions to the 2023-24 school calendar. So I'm just asking for your approval of that tonight.
Is this approval number
2.
2?
Yeah, you did the one back in February, and then this is the second one.
Is there a consensus that everybody's happy with it?
I think for the most part, there's some, you're never going to have everybody happy with the calendar. You're just not. We're going to put out, like we did last year, a survey in September, October-ish. We're going to, I think, wait till we're past that first 2-hour delay day, push out the survey. That'll go to staffs and parents. And we'll get feedback as we build next year's calendar.
So is it this proposed change more staff-driven or parent-driven? Because I saw a lot of parent backlash after it was presented last time. Almost like they didn't know it, and then it become a burden on them with all the delays.
This is probably more staff-driven in terms of adding the 2-hour delays. I think that's the main new piece is the 2-hour delays. The other days, we're just moving some days around and things like that. The winter holiday, we added a little bit of time there. And like we said, if the 2-hour delays don't work, there's no harm. We can come back to you and say it's not working. And we can remove it. Because then it's just a matter, you're not changing people's schedules. They just come to school earlier or at the regular time, rather than it being a full day that's now either a day out or a day in. So
With most of the complaints from the parents, because of the 2-hour change.
I've heard from 2 bus drivers. That's the only negative I've heard from. I have not heard from any parents with regard to the. And you all can approve it without the 2-hour delays if that's a problem. I mean, at this point, we're here at this point. You
I'm
can,
kind of like, if we already approved it once, it is what it is. And or then who says to 12 or whenever we are again, that then you hear from somebody else and we got approved again. And just like, why we approve it the first time, then we're just going to change it because then it sets a pattern for the future.
I don't disagree with you. I think we chose to bring it back to you just to tighten up some communication that was reported that didn't happen in the fall. And in response to some of those concerns that were brought up at different advisory meetings. So not, like we said last time, it's not a normal thing to bring it back. Usually we only bring it back to you if there's changes from the state that they mandate something different that we didn't know when we first approved it. So you can not approve this and we'll revert back to the original one that was approved in February if you want.
Well, one thought, if parents were putting it out there that they were upset with it, then they should have been in contact with Dr. Fox, to say, I have a concern, blah, blah, blah. Putting it out on Facebook or wherever, that's one thing. But you need to come and make it known here. Or to that principal.
I don't disagree with you,
No,
but
I'm
I
just
mean,
saying,
people aren't going to put a reminder in their phone, call Dr. Fox and complain about 2 hours.
Well, I'm just saying to the public, if you don't tell us, we can't fix it. So communication.
We have standstill here, so I'm going to make a motion that we approve 2023, 2024 revisions calendar.
Second.
A motion by Mr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to approve the 2023-2024 calendar revision.
Yes.
Yes.
Nope.
Yes.
Thank you.
Approval of policy GCED, staff employee leave and absences.
Yes, as you know, we've been looking at the leave policy, and we recruited the assistance of a team of teachers, classified employees. We have a wonderful group of people that came together. And what we last brought you to see in the informational tonight is slightly different. And when I say slightly different, when we met, there were some really good points brought up that I think require a little bit more time and study. If you could scroll to the second page, and what I'm really alluding to, the team of veterans, when you get down to the yellow highlight, Linda. We put some teeth into this. We were dealing or addressing the situation in which employees sometime will take large quantities of leave as they near the end of their time with Page County, retirement or resignation. And we've seen sometimes over the years where folks have really missed an incredible amount of time. And so this was one approach. I will tell you the average amount of leave accrued on the committee that I had was about 95 days. So these are folks that this would really impact. These are folks that if they decided to retire, and some of them could anytime, they were looking at this with a fine-tooth comb saying, okay, how will this impact me? How will it impact people like me? And there was some interesting comments, things to think about. One of the committee members has some pretty good ties to corporate HR and shared some corporate ideas that have been put out there to combat this kind of thing. And so the recommendation tonight is that we actually remove the clauses that were in your last year if you exceed 12 sick days, if you're a 12-month employee, then there's some teeth. And we're not saying it's going to go away. We're recommending we slow down and just study this a little bit more intently before we make a drastic change. An interesting point was made when you look at this page. You see that $12 a day, $15 a day. The veteran staff that I worked with looked right at me and said, you want to put teeth into this. You want me to come to work that last year. I've got all this accrual, but you're going to pay me $12 a day to save it and come to work. And when you think about that, that's an interesting point. These amounts are very, very old. And so that's what I'm talking about. There's a deeper dive that needs to be had here. And so instead of making a drastic change in that piece, we recommend the highlighted section just come out for now. And so it really goes back to the original policy just in that final year. And then we'll go further and just make sure you understand there's lots more in this policy that we do recommend to change. This is just that creative approach to try and slow down that excessive leave. We just feel like there's a deeper dive that needs to be taken, and we're kind of up against the July 1 deadline, because whatever you have in place for employee leave, you're going to have to honor that for the 12-month cycle because they're under contract. You get into changing policies in the middle of contract years and that kind of thing. So I'm more than happy to answer questions on that as we go. If we could just scroll forward, though, the committee thought there was a lot of sense to the other recommendations, the bereavement leave, in which if you have a death of an immediate family member, we did stay with the 2 days, but we did adjust it instead of it being, at one point we had said you don't know when there's going to be a death of a significant other. So at one point the language was that it would be, there would not be a limit, but we thought that maybe we did need to limit that. So we put no more than 3 times in a year for that. And we left the 3 additional days, but that comes out of your sick leave. You're not just giving it.
But who's saying who's legit or not? Because I think the number 6 immediate family leaves a lot to the imagination. Because I don't
it's
know of any
listed
other
out
school
here.
divisions that use bereavement leave.
I don't know. To answer your question, if you go back to number 6 on the page prior, it identifies exactly who is immediate
I
family.
know, but who's investigating that? Oh, yeah, it's my sister-in-law. I mean,
I mean, we can ask for documentation if we think
I
there's
just
something
think
questionable.
that this is going to be abused.
I'll
And
give
I-
you,
The
Who's the
bereavement,
school division that uses it? Because I don't know of any. Local.
I didn't bring that list with me. There are 2 that locally, I don't remember though. Amy, I'll have to get back with you.
but I'll give you an opposite scenario. One of the people on the committee actually cited that he had attended his aunt's funeral and it had to take, and actually this didn't quite cover that scenario because you have a day travel, you have a family night, and you typically have a service. So actually that's 3 days, but an aunt is not considered an immediate family member. So that individual had to use their own sick leave anyway. So there's going to be times that it works and there's going to be times that it
All you
doesn't
have to
work.
say is that they're living in your household. That's on there.
The aunt wasn't living in the household, yeah.
I mean, but who's-
Anyway, if I can keep moving, and you all can give me guidance. Leave without pay, we really do feel strongly that we want to continue with that language that it can be a disciplinary offense. And we've set some parameters of 5 days in a fiscal year or 10 days over a 2-year period. We want to assist our principals in being able to slow down this. I'm not coming to work even though I've used all of my leave for the year. So we think that's important. We added those, updated the holidays. And then towards the back, the use of leave before and after holidays. Again, we want to put some teeth. We don't have anything in writing. And we want to put some teeth into staff working the day before a holiday and the day after the holiday. And this has got some pretty good processes, how far in advance you need to request that leave in writing, what happens if we get a lot, how do we determine who gets a yes and who gets a no so we can still fully staff a school day. So this is pretty thorough on that. And the snow day as well, that just to have that in writing, that it's closed at the discretion of the division superintendent and what your options are there. So, and then that last page goes hand in hand with the first set of highlighted, if you can scroll down. Again, this is just that, it's sort of out of the box thinking that we were looking at with if you miss this many days and this can happen, but sick and annual leave, it was the same concept. We were trying to prevent somebody taking, 20, 25 days in a row off, but we need to take a deeper dive on those, just that concept for sick and annual leave.
So I have a question. I thought our whole point of bringing this policy up was for us to eliminate these big payouts when all we did is give people more days.
No, the parts that eliminate the payouts are the parts in yellow. Those are the parts we
Yeah,
want
that
to
we're
go back
going to
and revisit.
exclude, that we've said for a year we wanted to fix because of people leaving and then we got to give them a big chunk of change. Instead, we're just saying, here's more free days.
What, you're talking about the bereavement leave?
Yeah, because like the whole big thing, I have the example of, let's say somebody doesn't have any children, but they have a dog.
No, it says no pets.
I know it says no pets, but if somebody doesn't have any kids, but their dog dies, well, they don't mean anything. I mean, what's the difference? My whole point is, we said we had to fix this policy because we were paying people tens of thousands of dollars when they left us.
You had to negotiate with them to get.
Yeah, to get it down to that. And it's been a year almost. And we're going to have this problem again. We didn't do anything about it. Instead, we just said, hey, now you have bereavement days too, but we're still not going to limit this other stuff on carryovers or what you can keep.
So here's one of the dilemmas, right? So we want to hear people and we want to listen. And when we do that, sometimes it puts us in juxtaposition with the policies or the things we try to bring forth, a calendar or a policy. So we can move forward with what's in here if you want for next year. You can leave it as is. You can vote tonight to leave it as is. We spend next year revising it and this goes into play. Or we can choose to listen when we get concerns or potentially other ideas that come from staff.
Some of the other ideas that were suggested, things about phasing, we talked about payouts with the committee. I mean, we took a deep dive on this, and there were suggestions about phasing or staggering. If I know I'm going to retire next year, because I told them, I said, the payout is a big deal. The payout gets high. And And what do we do? You've got a lot of employees right now that are going to be way beyond the 30-day payout. We talked about the cap. Some divisions raised the cap from 30 days to 40 or 50 days and beyond. But the issue right now, this language isn't going to fix your payout next year. You're going to have people that are not going to take that $12 a day, and we're not going to be able to staff. That's the input we were getting is, if you do this now without a little deeper dive and a little bit more creativity, then why would we work if I've got 95 sick days and you're going to pay me $12 a day when I leave? I'm going to take the 95 days. That's the kind of input we were getting. And that's not to hold us over a barrel. It's to say some of this is antiquated, and what's the word? Antiquated, yeah. And we just need, so we're not recommending doing away with it. The problem is we weren't able to get into this until the last month. And so to your point about asking for it for a year, it does need that sort of time to make wise choices so that it doesn't bite us.
Well, I feel like then just adding bereavement's gonna bite us, so. If we don't, I'd rather just fix stuff instead of just adding stuff.
Bereavement came at the request from Teacher Advisory Council. They had brought it up last year. And we said we would look at it and bring it as a possibility, as a way to try to build morale and offer other things that are not all related to pay and things like that. So to offer an opportunity for someone who might have just lost their parent is a way for us as a division to try and build and establish a more positive
So
culture.
did we factor more money in the substitutes then? Because I mean, it just doesn't come out of, people aren't gonna be like, well, I'm gonna volunteer to sub because.
We can take
6
the
of one, half
bereavement
dozen
out.
of another.
If that's a sticking point, we can.
Well,
take
I'm
the
kind of like,
bereavement.
what are we even approving? We didn't fix anything.
You're going to approve the bereavement, you're going to approve
Everything
the
in red.
corrections to the leave without pay, you're going to approve the holiday additions, the use of leave before and after holidays, and the snow days, so that those can be in place for July 1.
Can I have your word that we'll do some of the other stuff in the next? Now I won't be here, so I guess I won't care.
Yes, you have my word, even though you won't be here.
By the way, we get up at 110 days.
I will mail you a
Point
copy
is
of it.
valid, though. For
Absolutely.
years, we've been talking about trying to get a handle on those big payouts. I mean, for the last 8 years or more. And nobody's ever really been able to make any traction. So she's not alone in what she's saying. We all agree, don't we, about that piece.
Absolutely.
I mean, one year it was just one bite in the hiney. Have a couple people walk out, it's somebody's position to pay them. So I mean, I think it's going to be who you have at the table talking too, because if you have a newer teacher that's starting a family and doesn't have a whole bunch of leave versus somebody that's been here 30 years, it's going to be two different.
I think people have to really look
Viewpoint.
at a cap or a phased cap or something.
That's what
Or-
we talked about phasing. Keep in mind the hybrid employees who are after January 1, 2014, they've got a 60-day cap. That ties into the hybrid state plan and disability. So slowly but surely, you're getting more and more hires after 2014 and fewer hires. So there's a slow shift happening under that alone, but it's not a fix.
In 10 years, that will be
It
good
will
with
be,
that
yeah,
plan.
it will be.
Not in the meantime, it's gonna be rough.
So in a nutshell, we're not saving any money. Not from this proposal.
No, you're losing because you're
You're
going to pay for
actually
subs.
Well, but I do think it's opened up a conversation with people who are possibly nearing retirement, who may have additional days where they've got to develop a plan. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to take 6 months off at the last part of because that cripples us as an organization. So there are some rich conversations that are coming out of that in the long run will save us money, but may not right now. But I think that's a valuable conversation to be having with those employees about if they are looking at retirement, how are they going to use that leave over the next couple of years in a way that's fair to them, but also fair to us, and to bring down those leave balances. There's a lot that's aspirational right now. But I do think at least the conversation has started, it's there. there's ideas being brought to the table, so we're not at point zero with it.
Why even vote on anything?
With the changes that are in red.
There's no
Leave on
advantage
the
to
back
it.
end of holidays.
Well, the holidays, we've put in the calendar that's been changed twice.
The bereavement, the holidays, the leave before and after.
The holidays, we
Leave without pay.
Leave without pay is a
The
huge
leave
one.
without pay.
Concept, so.
I would
I'm not
ask
sure
if you do
you've heard.
anything tonight. If you don't want to do all the other stuff, I would just ask that you make it amended and do the leave without pay.
I make a motion that we approve policy GCBD staff employee leave imbalances as is, but include use of leave before and after holidays was the only change. And the,
Leave it.
I said that, didn't I?
No, you
No.
did that.
Leave without pay, use of leave before and after holidays, and the list of 12-month holidays.
About the snow days.
Feedback.
Snow days.
Let me amend my thing. All right. I make a motion, we approve policy GCBD, staff employee leave and absences with the exclusion of bereavement.
Yep.
Is that a
Second. Yeah.
A motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mr. Bugler to approve policy GCBD with the exception of bereavement.
Mr. Painter,
Yes.
Dr. Painter,
Yes.
Ms. Albert,
Yeah.
Mr. Weaver,
Yes.
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Ms. Moore.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Ryman, science textbook adoption?
Yes, so good evening, board members. We have this under approval this evening, but it comes with a little bit of information that's required, of course, to be able to get there. The last time we spoke, as part of an instructional update, I had mentioned to you that we were going to be working through some science resources, desiring to get some new things approved and in place for our K-5 science classrooms, biology and chemistry. So, in the past couple of weeks, we have had central office staff have reviewed the state list of all the approved textbooks, sought those vendors that we felt like, you know, from a financial perspective or anything that we could manage. A rubric was created for our staff to review each of those resources. I put a copy of that there by your seat. So we had classroom teachers, administrators, our ITRT, special ed teachers, a variety of staff reviewed each of those resources, both what they can offer digitally and then what some of them offer in print. Not every resource comes in a print form anymore. I mean, and oftentimes there are mix and match package deals that you can get. So we wanted our staff to be able to see as much of that as possible so they could choose ultimately what they thought would best meet their instructional needs. We also put out some information to parents because we wanted to allow them an opportunity to review those things as well. And I'm pleased to say between, again, K-5, biology and chemistry, we had over 20 folks reach out and request like the digital codes to go online and review those materials. We also gave them the rubric. We had one individual return the rubric. But nonetheless, folks, sought the information and were very appreciative of the opportunity to be able to view that and the transparency that was given there. So with that in mind, what I would like to request as the action item is that we approve for K-5, Exploring Science All Around Us, which is produced by Five Ponds Press. Our staff are interested in combinations of both digital and print materials. For biology, it's the Virginia Miller and Levine Biology by Savas Learning. Again, some digital and print. And then for chemistry, it's Essential Chemistry by Pasco Scientific. Again, combination of digital and print. So it's those three different vendors to help get us in a good position with some strong primary resources for science. Any questions? I'm happy to answer.
Y'all ever pilot things before you buy it? Like at the elementary level? Like with a school that's doing well?
Again, historically speaking, I can't say too much. I've limited history, but I know there are times,
Well, they don't
especially
adopt textbooks often.
right. But even with other products such as online products, sometimes you can start with a couple of classrooms for teachers and kids to get the feel before you fully invest.
I make a motion we approve the science textbook adoption as presented by Ms. Roman.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Painter and second by Ms. Alger to approve the science textbook adoption as presented.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Board member discussion time.
Well, I'd just like to say a shout out to the Page County boys baseball team. They're at East Rock playing tonight. I'm gonna look on Facebook at the meeting just to see what's going on. And I'm not sure, and a shout out to the girls softball team for their win. And I don't know when they're playing next.
We're playing Clark tonight.
Bailey Gaskins actually hit a 3-run homer walk-off homer
Tonight?
to win the game. Yep.
Who did?
Bailey Gaskins,
All right.
3-run homer walk-off.
Wonderful. Well, congratulations to both teams, and I hope you keep winning.
Our JV girls are playing as well right now. Let's see where that goes. So during our interviews with the students, a couple of things that they highlighted. You'll thank them later. One of them is attendance, and I mentioned that last week, our last meeting. I think we have maybe a couple students that might be over 100 days. 40, 50, 60 days. And I know we worked on discipline, and probably a lot of that's discipline related, I would assume. I would like to see a breakdown of Pareto chart for each school and the amount of days it's been missed by each student. So for instance, if it's a 40-day, how many students missed over 40 days? How many missed over 50, 30, all the way down through there? By the school. I think that'll tell you something. If we can see some data on that, Pareto chart, several Pareto charts, I would do. Handoffs, I think this summer, we're going to have to really look at how we're finishing the year and the rising elementary students into the middle school, what that handoff is and what class, how that test went. How do we need to form RTIs, right, to make up that learning? And then from the middle to the high school as well. I think that's huge. And it's good for us to know how our feeder schools are doing. And what kind of disadvantage, I guess, or let's see, obstacles that the next school is going to have to try to gap. I wore my PCEA shirt today at Hawksbill Diner and got a lot of comments about it from Northern Virginia teachers that were on vacation. I don't know, they must be out already. Jaden McClung, she won the WHSV Student Athlete of the Year. It's pretty cool. Really good. And I think our track teams, and Mr. Johnson, you might know more than I do, but I'd love to see, I think we have the most qualifiers, state qualifiers maybe we've ever had.
Over 25 students in 2 high schools in the state.
I think he might know. What do you think?
Well, he might know. I don't know.
It's really
Except
good.
at least one of them. Yeah.
It's over 25 kids.
Yeah, 25 kids. That's pretty cool. That's probably a record, I would assume. Yeah. Now the challenge is, can we get them to their graduation? Compete. I mentioned about the softball, and Bailey's had a good year, really good year. And I just appreciate everybody that puts that work in their athletic. And we have how many more days left? 5.
It's Monday, so
5 days left.
I will say on Tuesday, I had the most delightful kids come to my house to meet my goats. It was the multiple disabilities and the post-grads kids from Leroy High School. And they came to feed the goat. We want to learn about goats, and they got to pet them, feed them treats, and they had popsicles. But they were the nicest kids, had the best manners, asked relevant questions, and it was great behavior, and it was worth taking some time off work to come host them. Thank you for doing it. You're welcome. Well, they were at Lake Arrowhead, and I'm literally 1 minute on the school bus from there.
I'm gonna try not to get emotional. So May is really, really hard.
And I know it's the end of the school year, and I think it's always been hard. But I think especially with our current climate and culture that we're dealing with, especially around mental health, it seems really, really hard this year. And I think it's no coincidence that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. I today had to go and take a child to be evaluated. And at the hospital, they told me that they've never seen anything like it. They are having so many children come in for evaluation saying that they want to end their lives. I think a big thing that I'm struggling with this, and I don't know when this started or when it began, was this us versus them mentality. And it's especially around parents and the school. You know, I've been interacting with the community and I've been asked, questions about, parents or the schools. And I think it's a partnership, it's a collaboration. And Jackie nailed it. It's communication. We talk about trust and how trust is the foundation to build relationship, but it's communication is coupled with that. And I think it's us communicating with each other, and I think it's us communicating with the schools, and I think it's parents communicating with their kids and us communicating with parents and vice versa. And if we don't know things, we can't do anything about it. And social media isn't the way to communicate those things. There's already a stigma around social media. So when you go to that with an emotion, that emotion becomes amplified. And so we have to come to the source. We have to communicate. And these are our kids and they are wanting to end their lives. And that is an issue. So I just, I went to my cousin's graduation yesterday in Maryland, and the principal, her whole speech was about communication and encouraging the kids to go about, and I'm seeing it in all these facets of my life. So it's a big thing, and I just it has me very emotional because we're just pointing fingers and blaming. And I was really scared to say this tonight because sometimes when we speak, our words can get thrown against us, or you say one thing and it becomes, well, you said this thing. And I didn't want to do that, but I hope people can hear my message and know that it's coming from my heart. And we've got to work together, everybody, because if not, it's unraveling. And yeah, so there's my TED Talk. Thank you.
I think we need to do some research with that as well. I mean, if you look at Instagram, so for instance, old people like me, we're on Facebook, right? And our younger generation's on Instagram.
And other things we don't know about.
And other things we don't know about. TikTok. If you look at Instagram when it got started and look at the teenage self-harm among female adolescents, it skyrocketed. And we're all worried, and what we have is we want everybody else's approval. When you're just defined the way you are, and if you develop and learn from life's lessons. And those are some of the comments we got to have from parents, and we got to have it coming from our schools. So sometimes we can equip the parents, right? But if you just look at that, that's enough to know where your self-harm is coming from.
Right.
Now, males are more violent with their thoughts.
And people need to know too, I mean, yes, discipline is an issue and we're seeing so much, really intense behavior, but behavior is just a symptom. It is coming from somewhere else. And so it's encouraging the kids to communicate about those things and parents to talk to their kids about what's going on. And yeah, it's deeper than just the kid saying something or doing something or getting angry.
And we need to, I'm not gonna keep preaching. But if you look at sexual abuse, that drives a lot of what's going on. A lot of the drug use, you'll find sexual abuse that's trying to cover. And that takes a society working on that. And that takes empowering young people to come forward and say, something's not right here. One in 3 females are generally sexually abused. 1 in 6 men. And with men, it's probably underreported because we don't see them. It's over through it. Those are the kind of things we need to know and be paying attention to.
all I'll say is screen time is a big issue with a lot of things, not just with one of the things Taylor talked about, but also with mass shootings. And that can be mitigated or at least improved a bit if we consider limiting cell phone usage in our schools at some level, especially in middle school and elementary years. Maybe it's something we can talk about at some point.
So I had the opportunity on Sunday to attend the legacy presentation at Page County High School, which is coupled with the sports awards. It was very humbling. Kate was inducted into the second legacy class, along with some phenomenal people from our community, Mr. Seacrest, Mr. Burke, and Coach Allen Knight. And Mr. Simmons did an amazing job, I thought, of highlighting the legacy honorees and then the students. So there was recognitions throughout the evening of both. And it was neat to see a couple of our student reps being honored as some of for their athletic achievements and VHSL achievements. And then them getting to hear the legacy honorees. It was a reminder that we have great things going on in Page County. We have amazing people that give back continuously. Mr. Simmons also honored coaches and volunteers and staff for athletics that have been with the program, highlighting their years of service, and some of them over 40 years in coaching. And I think Lois Huffman was 40 years assisting. It was Coach Knight, I think, had like 41 years in coaching. That's amazing when you think about it, to coach a sport that long. So it was neat. I mean, it was, for on a personal side, it was very humbling and neat for me, but it was fun to watch, to see the legacy people, the inductees get to speak to the students, and then them get to hear the students be honored. Thought it was a very nice presentation, And a good reminder that we do have great things going on, great people in this community, great kids in this community, and something to take away from the negative. Yes.
All you have to do is come rub a goat and the world's great. Pat, I can.
Goats are nice.
Yeah.
We have cows.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mr. Painter to adjourn.
Ms. Albert?
Yeah.
Mr. Goodrich? Yes. Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Dr. Painter?
Yes.
Ms. Sullivan?
Yes. Yes.